The Packers exercised some demons and put a beat down on the injury-riddled 49ers. Woo! Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah, ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
Welcome in. Another episode. Sounds Gouda. Always better on Victory Monday when Jordan and I are recording this. Hallelujah. We got a victory against the 49ers. I don't care that they were injured. Still an awesome victory. Thank you as always for everyone coming back and taking a listen to us. As always, I'm one of your two co-hosts. My name is Ralph. Next to me is my best friend, Jordan Olson. Super excited to be back and to talk Packers victory, and especially over a team that has had our number here recently. So Jordan and I were at the game yesterday too. It was an awesome atmosphere. Of course, any single time you get to go to Lambeau, it's such an awesome and great experience. We were able to meet up with a few of our friends. We were able to take each of our dads, which was all cool and awesome as well. So able to hit up a few spots. Kroll's, I had never been to Kroll's, and Jordan and his family had never been to Kroll's too. So shout out for the awesome burger and curds, of course, and what was an absolutely rocking atmosphere. But yeah, Jordan, we had this game penciled in, for quite a while, just knowing what the 49ers historically have done to us more in the playoffs, and we have had a couple of regular season wins to get them. But overall, just to say too, how are you feeling after the game? Anything else you wanted to touch on as far as something, we might have missed as far as the atmosphere or game goes?
Man, I feel great about that, right? There's obviously some things to clean up. Before I really jump into the atmosphere of the game itself, just letting our listeners know we are releasing this on Tuesday due to the short week, and we are going to throw out the Dolphins preview on Thanksgiving morning, giving you most of the day to listen to it leading up to that big night game at Lambeau. But yeah, man, Rob, it was awesome to be there with our dads. I haven't seen your dad, Dale, in a while. It was so good to see him. And, I know that being there on Military Appreciation Month, your dad serving in the armed forces, the Air Force, right?
Yep. Yes.
I know he got a charge out of the flyover and, the whole deal. And, yeah, right from the moment you got in, there was definitely some Niners fans in the stadium. It wasn't like the playoff chirping from a couple years ago, Rodgers' last game as a Packer, but you could tell they had a little bit of juice. I think they also kind of knew the position they were in, playing without Bosa and Purdy, and some other guys like Trent Williams, right? So I think they kind of tempered their expectations, knowing how they played this year, a couple guys they were missing, and didn't want to get too hot into it early on. But we went out, we took the ball, we scored on our first possession. And then, we're going to talk about how the game unfolded, but getting out to a 17-0 start in that first half really set the tone for, hey, I can take a deep breath. Maybe I'm going to enjoy this. Maybe it's not going to be that 24-23 game that I predicted where we're going to be biting our nails, hoping to find a way to beat the Niners. But it was awesome. They took care of business. So, yeah, what are your other opening thoughts as we kick off the show?
This is awesome. Any single time you get to go to a Packers game, let alone with your best friend and with your dads, as both of us being, obviously you're a newer father, but I have 3 kids too as well. So to be able to get to sneak away and, do something that me and you, quite frankly, obviously, love quite a bit in the NFL. And then, of course, for the Packers. And, that atmosphere is just every single time I get to go there. It's just amazing to me that I can literally go across the street, park in between somebody's 2 front trees in their lawn, and walk about 2 blocks over, and I'm over at Lambeau Field every single time. I'm like, this is nuts to me. There's no other atmosphere like it too. I know on the broadcast they were talking a lot about the history too, as far as that goes. But no, man, it was absolutely amazing. A little bit tired today, no doubt, trying to drive back and get through some of that Packers traffic. But I wouldn't have wanted to do it with anybody else. So
yeah, we had a long drive back I'm in my, as you can see, I'm not in my normal studio here. I'm at my my father's basement, which he has much
There's some great
cooler.
Packers memorabilia right behind you.
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind me here. Maybe someday I can kind of live up to that hype. His man cave is pretty awesome. But I apologize on that note because I'm not recording with my normal setup, my microphone. So if sound quality, video quality is a little off, give me a little grace there. But yeah, it was a long drive back. It started raining on us. We got out of there at the perfect time because it started raining pretty much immediately as people got to their cars. But the game weather itself was amazing for an evening game in November. But it did feel like November, and the Packers played a football game like it was November, and they really
Yes, they
leaned
did.
into Josh Jacobs and the run game. And that was pretty evident. They had some pretty scripted stuff through the first 2 or 3 series where they got Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft involved, and then they almost solely leaned on the run game to a tune of 169 rushing yards. Josh Jacobs had 106 of those and 3 TDs. I mean, what a game for Josh Jacobs. But you had some nice complimentary runs, even especially early from Emmanuel Wilson too. That whole second drive was basically, his dirty work there. And really great game on the ground for the Packers. All right, well, let's just stick with the offense. What else did you think of the Packers offense?
Yeah, I mean, there are some really nice scripted plays. Obviously, running the ball effectively with Josh Jacobs. And just in general, when it gets colder, that's what you want to lean on is that running game. And he is just an absolute workhorse. And he was in this game. And, we were mentioning at the game, though, too, is we finally figured out what maybe the Achilles heel is for the 49ers and what they were doing to us and all those victories running the football. So, that's exactly what they did. Again, too, like you said, Josh Jacobs, 106 yards and 3 tutties. I'm really leaning on him. But not only just that, too, the other thing I noticed, too, with coming back and watching some of the specifics on it as well, they really leaned on to, when Malik Willis, those games that he had come in and some of those really cool concepts of motioning. And even this one, people coming back, he's faking like he's going that way, and then they're running to the right. They had some really awesome play concepts and designs. I think a couple of those plays, maybe a couple of other NFL teams that might be scouting them and trying to figure out how to do those plays themselves, because it was just unique. So, but not only that, but Josh Jacobs is obviously making people miss. He's twisting and turning and shuffling and doing everything he can. He's just putting his heart and his soul into this. So, I think, what has he got? 944 yards so far in the season, and that's the most since Amon Green, right? Obviously, a big Packer legend. So it was good just to get to run the football and run some of our stuff too, and kind of run it down their throats.
Mm-hmm.
I think Keyshawn Nixon put it up really well too. Is just there's no excuse for you coming in there and putting up a dud and not playing well, right? You got to play the team that you're playing, no matter whoever is going to play. And they didn't come up to play. The Packers had to do that as well when we had Malik Willis in for, a couple games and a half, or a couple games I think it was, and a half too with the Jaguars, and we had to come away and try and get a victory out of those games too. So if there was anybody I was confident in being able to put out a great game script and be able to do that on anybody, especially the Packers, it's the San Francisco 49ers. So really, really happy with that. I think that there was some, obviously some big drops, and actually a pretty crazy stat too from our friend Felipe Hazasechi that I'll throw at you, and just want to see what you think is, he put out big time throw rate. Jordan Love 3.7%, Jared Goff at 2.8%. So then we get into the fun part, which is the drop rate. Jordan Love 1.3%. How crazy is that, right? So, if we can clean up and catch some of those balls, not to say that, the game wasn't, it was still pretty close there, midway through the third quarter. And then we kind of took off with it. But either way, I think the big one too in that side of the field that we were on was that Christian Watson drop, right in the bread bucket, right in his hands. And after, of course,
just a dime from Jordan Love, right? I mean, that's a walk-in touchdown for him. And, if we're just going to talk about the drops, that's obviously the biggest one. You could have, after the 49ers came down and scored, you could have went back, responded before they get the ball back to start the second half. make it 24-7 and really make them have a lot of doubt at that point in time that they were capable of coming back in the game. But, just if Christian Watson wants to be the dude and the focal point of this offense,
He's got to make those plays.
He's got to get more consistent, because he can have the game he had last week where he's making contested catches and double coverage. But it's like, this is the play that he opened his NFL career with, right? Aaron Rodgers throws a dime to him on the very first play drawn up for him in that Vikings game and drops it, right? So, I mean, it's been good because he hasn't really had a play quite like this since then. So he's clearly made a lot of big plays and moved on, but he's got to consistently come down with that. In a different game against a full strength 49ers, that could have been the difference in them making an adjustment in the second half and us finding a way to hold on 24-21, 27-24, whatever, to finish that game out. So
yeah, and I mean, you could tell they wanted to get Dobbs involved, and they did. We'll have to see exactly what comes out as far as his concussion, but tight turnaround here with having to play on Thursday. So he was obviously a focal point, and it's good to get him the ball. And then, there towards the end, Malik Heath, we have a number 18 sighting there for a tutty, so, answer going Dobbs out, we might see some more Malik Heath, but it seems like so far, Malik Heath can catch the ball. We'll have to see if he's getting some more targets and some more those type of balls and whatnot too. But, insert one Packers, other wide receiver, and that's why we got that good depth for too, right? So if Dobbs is out, I am excited to see Malik Heath come in this game and see what he can do against a pretty good Dolphins defense.
One other item of note, we noticed this in real life, right? And then we're going to get off the drops. I want to talk about some more really positive stuff from the Packers offense on the day, and then we'll get to the defensive side of the ball. But Wicks came in, had that breadbasket catch. The ball got to his chest, right? Not out in front of him. But hey, he caught the ball. He got a first down. He made a nice gain, and we might need him next week, especially if we're shorthanded. I mean, we're not like super shorthanded, right? We have a plethora of options, but we just need dudes to step up. But how about, we've been talking about this for weeks, but 5 for 5 in red zone trips this week. And that, if you include last week's game, I saw a stat, we're 8 for 10 in the last 2 weeks. But man, did we when we were in the red zone, we finished business this week, and man, did it feel good, because it felt like that's really where we've been short the last, any losses we've had and any games we've felt nervous about. That's been our last big bugaboo.
Yeah, right. And we were pretty good there for penalties too. What was it, 5 for 40? Another thing that's killed us too as well. It's really like you can clean up some of those drops, not to go back to that, but and I know they might put some emphasis on it as well, but yeah, this offense has all the potential in the world to be, one of the top, if not the best offense. So yeah, that's good to see that in the red zone. I remember when they scored that, was it the first touchdown, he threaded it to Tucker Kraft, had to get it in there and score a touchdown. 1 for 1 in the red zone. Woohoo! But to me, Jordan, like I keep telling you, it all comes with running the ball effectively and riding that workhorse and Josh Jacobs. And it seems like we really emphasize that this game. That seems to open up a whole bunch of other stuff too as well, play action. So really helped us out. And overall, I thought it was really efficient game too from the offense.
Yeah, Jordan Love didn't have big stats. I mean, that certainly could have been helped out with the 49-yard reception and the additional touchdown that Watson could have brought in.
Yep.
Then he would have been over 200 yards on the day, 3 passing touchdowns. You're like, hey, that's a really nice day for Love. But another huge positive, and I predicted this with my family before the game. We have such quick turnarounds sometimes when we do these pods. I had some more nuggets throughout the week that I was thinking about, but I'm like, this is going to be the game where Love doesn't turn over the ball. And he went ahead, he went out there. He still had a couple of turnover-worthy throws, but hey, 0 turnovers for Love today. I think he only took, yesterday, he only took the 1 or 2 sacks. I mean, really overall, really solid day from Jordan Love. He made a couple nice throws, and I think that's a really good building block for him going into the Dolphins and the Lions game coming in the next few weeks here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all those things help. Don't turn the ball over, run the ball effectively, catch the ball, don't have many penalties, score in the red zone. I mean, you can't obviously play perfect all the time, but they put in some emphasis on that, and you could definitely tell the last couple of weeks, being 8 for 10 helps out quite a bit, right? Especially getting them touchdowns. So
yeah, last thing I'll touch on the offense in general before we jump over to the defensive side of the ball, because they made some plays too. Packers win time of possession 36 minutes and 43 seconds to 23 minutes and 17 seconds. It felt like we controlled the ball and the game. And we came out, we took care of business. So to kind of segue over, one thing that we didn't touch on last time, but I got to wonder the impact that Robert Saleh had this week on his ability to, counsel Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love. Here's some audibles, here's some looks. Hey, I know that if you, zone read, run down their throat, that actually they're not going to be able to hang with you guys, whatever it is, right? Like, wonder how much impact Robert Saleh had on this game. But yeah, the defense, which Robert Saleh is not touching at all, they showed up. We neutralized McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. Jennings was a non-factor. Really, the only one of their big guys they had left that had a day was George Kittle, and he had a great day. But what do you think about the defensive performance?
Yeah, I mean, there was more than a few good positives. I mean, the X/Twitter, fandom of those guys are up in flames now because you had a pretty good game from Quay Walker, Keyshawn Nixon and Lucas Van Ness, and got some anger out on him. So that's obviously awesome, but like, just to show you like what the Packers can do, like when those guys step up and what this defense can be. I really hope for Quay Walker's sake, and I was going back and watching some film on some of the plays that he made. He had an awesome game. I think he graded in the 90s or close to it, right, for PFF specifically. But
yeah,
I really
like
hope
91.4. He was the top rated defensive player for the Packers according to PFF in this game. So I'm not ready to like anoint him yet, but like we need some more of that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just shows you just the capability of what our defense can do when Quay Walker plays up to that level. And I'm not saying he's got to do that every week, right? But, 70s, 80s, just not in, in the 50s, 40s, 30s, sometimes like he's been. He played a lot more instinctual. They had some really good unique blitzes with him and well-timed. And, he's really good as like an edge blitzer, coming off. And he's got kind of that big body. He can shred some of those blocks and get to the quarterback quick. I thought like it felt, and we were there, as well too. So depending on what side of the field that they were on, it was a little bit hard to see. Of course, got the jumbotron, but it felt like he's playing a lot more instinctual in this game, just reading, reacting, and going rather than kind of just pausing and then kind of letting the play come to him. Obviously, that's evident in the grade and what it is for that too. But if we have those three players step up and play moderate to pretty good football, you got really good safeties. The cornerbacks, obviously, having a backup quarterback didn't have too much of a challenge, right? Purdy's, a really solid quarterback. But they held up on their end. Obviously, you have Mr. X, with his 7th pick, and we've already said what we can say about him ad nauseum. He's been one of the best free agent signings, him and Josh Jacobs. So you can pair that up with really good safeties in the back end. We'll see what we can do as far as getting Ja back. I'm not sure if he'll be ready, but man, we could have, again, too, just a really good 5 defense. So I really hope this is more of what is to come. And I did think it was pretty interesting, too, as well, that Brenton Cox Jr. got a lot of those snaps over Enigbare, who I didn't think scored as well. And this one, too, as well. But they're liking what Brenton Cox Jr. can do. You can get Lucas Van Ness in there to play really well. Didn't see too much for Rashawn Gary in this game, but, I'll take that with what we had for those other players that have consistently throughout this year haven't been playing up to snuff.
And for all those snaps that Brenton Cox Jr., he had an outstanding game according to PFF, 79.9, which, I mean, that's a great grade.
Let's go.
And, maybe Goody does know what he's doing a little bit. Like, hey, I'm going to get rid of an aging player and I'm going to insert these young guys.
New blood.
And I'm going to let them hunt. There's a guy I know from my industry, Mark the Shark. He works at Notre Dame, and he goes, when you've got good staff or this player good players. Let them go out and use their instincts and let them hunt, and that's when they're going to be at their best, So we're kind of talking about that same thing. But Javon Bullard had a. Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry to interrupt. No, I was just going to say, remember we were talking in the last pod and the stands too. We need to get more of those pictures of somebody kissing Rashawn Gary's mom, because apparently they showed at the Lucas Van Ness somebody kissing his mom. That dude just went ape crap. I'm not going to swear, but ape crap on that one play just to get to the quarterback on that. So it seemed like there was a little bit of fire, right? They remembered what happened.
I don't know how much technique was involved in that LBN strip sack, right? But
he was mad.
Got his hat on the ball, and he created a play, which that one recovered by Kenny Clark, right? And our other punch out, which Keyshawn Nixon got credited with that punch out, but man, in real time and on the replay, I could have swore that Javon Bullard punched that ball away, but Nixon gets
both
credited.
Thought it was Bullard, yes, in real time.
Yeah. And Carl Brooks recovered that one, right? But a 3 turnover day for the Packers defense. We win the turnover margin 3-0. It's gonna your odds are really great in your favor of winning a game if that's the case. And clearly, we lived up to that. But
and there was another really good. And for anybody who doesn't know, you should follow Ben Fennell on X. Really breaks down some of the secondary concepts and different stuff that Jeff Hafley is doing as far as, it looks like man single high, then it goes back to 2 high, but then it's, it's a zone. He has these really nice simplistic ways, and I felt like obviously for anybody, a backup quarterback and being that, but, really confused Brandon Allen on more than a few different series. And so, just shout out to Hafley for, putting, again, some cornerback depth, in there with Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes, and getting them ready to play and putting a really good game script for that back end too as well. So it was just really impressive.
Yeah, one last thing that I want to talk about on the defense, and then to jump into it is I'm confused by the Carrington Valentine and Eric Stokes of it all. I kind of thought that after last week's game we had settled into, all right, we're going to roll with Carrington Valentine. He played pretty well, better than Stokes up to this point.
Yes.
And then we get to this game, and they're rotating again. It wasn't quite a 50-50 split, but it was like a 60-40. And Carrington Valentine had a terrible game, according to PFF. He scored a 29.5, which is like non-playable. Eric Stokes was the second worst graded player on defense at a 47.8. So I have no idea what to do with that combination on the outside while we wait for Alexander to return. I mean, clearly we were able to disguise it. I'd imagine a lot of it had to do with Brock Purdy not being out there and Allen being the quarterback for the game. It really makes me a little nervous for going up against Tua next week. I don't think Ja's going to be back, but I don't know. That's just something to know. What do you make of it?
Well, yeah, I mean that too. And I thought that just, like the scheme was good, but, obviously having your best cornerback, Ja, that really hurts. And yeah, you make a really good point. If Purdy's in there, I think he could take advantage of some of that stuff. But, there's a big, what was it, the third down play where, Xavier McKinney comes up, goes to single high, and he's the one that's coming up in the box, and he makes a really good pass breakup on what would have been a pass out to the flat to McCaffrey. So, when you're putting in your other best players, Xavier McKinney and some of those other people on the back end, came up to make some really good plays. I don't know. I think just at this point, you got to roll with what you got to roll with, and I think that they're giving some, Eric Stokes some opportunity. Obviously, Carrington Valentine didn't play up, that well too as well. But again, is that the backup quarterback, or is it more of just what the scheme and what Hafley was doing to at least put him in some decent spots where he couldn't absolutely kill you? Now, George Kittle had a game, right? But George Kittle's George Kittle. But, with Purdy in there, I think it's a much, much closer game. And I still think, too, with the NFC West up for grabs, the 49ers, could easily sneak into the playoffs as a wild card and maybe even win that division right now with Seattle leading that 6 wins and 5 losses. So, I still think that the 49ers can get in there and make some noise, and they're still a really talented team, and that's nothing to snuff. They should have came into Lambeau and they should have played really well, and I think for a little while there too, at least in the first half, they were doing that. But I'll put that up to Jeff Hafley's scheme and what he was doing to kind of confuse Brandon Allen, who, quite frankly, a little bit easier to confuse than your starting quarterback, who's had a lot more reps and experience with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that coming into the game. I mean, this is a chance for the Packers to put the 49ers down, but that's out if nobody in the West really wants to take a hold of that division, right? So I mean,
somebody's got to win it.
A 9 or 10 team win it. So I mean, you're not talking about the wild card, but I mean, you got a situation where if the Packers are the 5 seed, a lot of things have to go their way. You might have to play the Niners in Santa Clara. A 4-5 matchup, they'd probably be healthy then. I mean, a 12-5 Packers versus a 10-7 Niners on the road. I don't know. Or let's not even talk.
Jordan, I want as much as people are like, oh man, and I get it. We're 0-5, against them in the playoffs here recently, but let's go in there if that's the case. Let's beat the crap out of them at full strength and put that to bed, man. Let's get that monkey off our back. Not that this wasn't good. It was great, but you're beating down on an injured animal,
Yeah, this isn't the Aaron Rodgers era anymore. It's the Jordan Love era, baby, and let's start new. Favre, Rodgers seemed to have his way with the Cowboys, and Favre seemed to have better luck against the Niners. Maybe Jordan Love will flip the script on that a little bit. But let's look around the league and check out the playoff picture. So give it to me, Rob.
Here we go.
All right, you all know this, but the Browns upset the Steelers in the Snow Bowl. I was not expecting that outcome, but that was from a fan's perspective a fun one to watch with the blizzard there. I don't know that the players enjoyed that as much as we all do. Bucs roll past the Giants, and that's just important to note. Not that we expect anything out of the Giants, but that's another win for the Bucs, which the Falcons and the Bucs are going to be competing for that division. And I don't know if either of them will truthfully be in the wild card hunt, but somebody's got to win that division. Cowboys beat the Commanders, which helps us. They're now 2 full games back. Dolphins beat the Pats. That's our next week's opponent, but they've won 3 in a row. Lions take care of business on the road against the Colts. The Bears can't find a way to beat the Vikings in overtime. I don't cheer for the Bears very often, but I think we were all cheering for the Bears this past week. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals, and they now lead that division. And the Eagles take down the Rams. So some big NFC games there that could have implications later on. Looking at the playoff picture now, the Lions are 10-1. Eagles are 9-2. They have the 2 seed. The Seahawks would be the 3 seed at 6-5. I don't know how they hold the tiebreaker over the Falcons, but the Falcons are also 6-5, and they were on a bye week. Vikings are the 5 seed at 9-2. Packers 6 at 8-3, and the Commanders the 7th seed at 7-5. So yeah, well, thanks everybody for jumping on. Again, more great content from Sounds Gouda every week. This week we are releasing our episodes on Tuesday and Thursday, so make sure to check us out and spend a little time with us on Thanksgiving this week, getting ready for that Dolphins game. But great time to share that with your family and friends that you're hopefully spending some time with for the holidays. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure to follow us. You can connect with us on X at Sounds Gouda, or me personally at Olson Jord. But until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack, go.
Been wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey.